ancient traveler on a modern path, a timeless journey interrupted by the unyielding lines of progress. Across the globe, one of nature's most magnificent and intelligent creatures, the elephant, is being forced into a dangerous new world. This is the story of a collision, not just of flesh and steel on darkened highways, but of two worlds: the shrinking wilderness and the expanding human footprint. We see them as icons of the wild, majestic, powerful, symbols of an untamed earth. For millennia, elephants have shaped the very landscapes they inhabit, carving paths through dense forests, dispersing seeds over vast distances, and engineering ecosystems as nature's gentle giants. In many cultures, they are revered, seen as divine beings, embodiments of wisdom and strength. But today, their survival depends not on their strength, but on their ability to navigate a world that no longer accounts for their needs. Their ancient migratory routes, etched into the memory of generations, are now sliced apart by ribbons of asphalt and concrete, and so they are forced to cross. Driven by the primal, inescapable need for food and water, entire herds, from a matriarch leading her family to a lone bull on a solitary quest, must risk everything to traverse our world. This is a story of conflict, but also one of surprising adaptation and resilience. It is a story of the grave dangers these crossings pose to both elephants and people. And it is a story of the urgent, innovative, and sometimes desperate search for solutions. How can two intelligent species, one driven by instinct and the other by ambition, learn to share the same narrow space? The answer to that question will determine the future of the elephant outside the protected boundaries of our national parks. And in doing so, will say much about our own future on this crowded planet. To understand why an elephant would risk crossing a busy road, we must first understand the fundamental rhythm of its life. An elephant's day is a continuous journey for sustenance. An adult can consume up to 150 kilograms of vegetation and drink over 100 liters of water every single day. This colossal appetite means they cannot stay in one place for long. They are perpetual foragers, constantly on the move. This movement is not random. It is guided by a deep, instinctual knowledge of the land, a mental map passed down from matriarch to calf over countless generations. This map dictates their seasonal movements, leading them to areas where specific plants are fruiting, where new grass is sprouting after the rains, or where life-sustaining water sources can be found during the driest months. The territory they cover in this search is known as a home range, which can span hundreds, even thousands of square kilometers. Connecting these seasonal feeding grounds are critical pathways known as migratory corridors. These are not merely trails, they are ecological lifelines. For centuries, these corridors have provided safe passage, allowing herds to move between fragmented patches of forest, find mates to ensure genetic diversity, and escape localized threats like drought or fire. They are as vital to an elephant's existence as roads and railways are to our own civilization. But this ancient network is breaking down. The relentless expansion of human settlement, agriculture, and infrastructure has created a fractured landscape. A forest that was once a single contiguous block is now an island, surrounded by a sea of farms, villages, and highways. Habitat fragmentation is the single greatest threat to the long-term survival of wide-ranging species like the elephant. Their historical corridors are being severed, their home ranges shrinking. What was once a safe, unbroken path is now a deadly obstacle course. They are in effect becoming prisoners in their own diminishing homes, and the roads are the bars of the cage. This conflict between elephant and infrastructure is not a localized issue, it is a global phenomenon, playing out with unique intensity in different parts of the world. In Asia, India stands at the epicenter of this struggle. Home to over half of the continent's wild elephants, it is also a nation of 1.4 billion people. In states like Assam in the northeast, elephants must navigate a maze of tea plantations and burgeoning towns to move between fragments of rainforest. In the south across Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka, Ancient elephant corridors are now intersected by national highways carrying thousands of vehicles a day. Here, the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, a critical elephant habitat, is crisscrossed by roads that have become notorious hotspots for collisions. Just across the Palk Strait, the island nation of Sri Lanka faces an even more compressed version of this conflict. With one of the highest densities of both elephants and humans in the world, coexistence is a tense daily reality. Elephants frequently cross roads that cut through their habitats, raiding crops and garbage dumps in a desperate search for calories, leading to an alarmingly high rate of conflict. The story is mirrored on the African continent, though on a vaster scale. In Kenya, development corridors with new highways and railways slice through iconic ecosystems like the Tsavo and Amboseli. Here, elephants must contend not only with cars and trucks, but with high-speed trains. In the great elephant heartlands of Botswana and Zimbabwe, which host the largest remaining populations, traditional migratory routes that span across national borders are increasingly threatened by fencing and roads, isolating herds and disrupting patterns of movement that have existed for eons. And in Southeast Asia, in countries like Thailand and Myanmar, the primary driver is the rapid conversion of forest to agriculture. As forests are cleared for palm oil and rubber plantations, elephants are squeezed into smaller and smaller pockets of land. To find food, they are forced to cross the roads that service these very plantations, creating a tragic feedback loop where the instrument of their habitat's destruction becomes a direct, physical threat to their lives. From the hills of Odisha in India to the savannas of Botswana, the narrative is the same. An ancient map of survival is being violently redrawn by human hands. The decision for an elephant to step onto a road is not a choice, but a compulsion. It is an act born of necessity, driven by a powerful combination of environmental pressures and irresistible temptations. The primary driver is the disappearance of their natural larder. Deforestation and land degradation have stripped the landscape of the native grasses, leaves, and bark that form their staple diet. The forests that remain are often degraded, unable to support the immense dietary needs of a breeding herd. When the pantry is bare at home, they are forced to look elsewhere, and what they find is often a buffet far more tempting than anything the forest can offer. Human agriculture represents a concentrated, high-calorie food source that elephants have quickly learned to exploit. A single field of sugarcane, rice paddy, or a banana plantation is the elephant equivalent of a feast. These crops are not only energy-rich, but also easier to digest than tough, woody vegetation. For an animal that spends up to 18 hours a day eating, the lure of such an easy meal is almost impossible to resist, especially for a pregnant female or young, growing calf. This attraction pulls them out of the relative safety of the forest and into the human-dominated landscape. Water is another powerful magnet. Traditional waterholes and riverbanks are often blocked by new settlements or dams. Irrigation canals and reservoirs, while built for human use, become critical water sources for wildlife. To reach them, elephants must often cross roads that run alongside these agricultural zones. This behavior is not just instinctual, it is learned. Elephants possess remarkable intelligence and long-term memory. A matriarch who successfully leads her family across a road to a field of maize teaches that route to her offspring. The younger generation learns that the risk is worth the reward. This creates a cultural transmission of risky behavior, entrenching the pattern of road crossing and crop raiding into the herd's collective knowledge. They are adapting to a changed world, but this adaptation comes at a terrible price. They are not invading our world. They are trying to survive in the one we have left for them. Every time an elephant steps onto a road, it enters a lethal arena where the consequences are stark and unforgiving for both sides of the conflict. For the elephants, the most immediate and brutal danger is the collision itself. A multi-ton animal is no match for a speeding truck or bus. These incidents are almost always fatal for the elephant, resulting in a slow, agonizing death from internal injuries. Even if they survive the initial impact, a broken leg is a death sentence in the wild. The loss of a single elephant is a tragedy, but the loss of a breeding female or a matriarch can have devastating consequences for the entire herd's social structure and survival. Beyond the highway, other dangers await. In retaliation for crop damage, frustrated farmers may resort to desperate measures. Illegal electric fences, hooked up to high-tension power lines, can deliver a fatal shock. Poisoned crops or water sources are another silent killer. And for every documented death, many more elephants may be targeted by poachers who exploit the chaos and anger of human-elephant conflict to hunt for ivory. The road is not just a physical barrier, it is a gateway to a world of human-inflicted threats. The danger, however, is not a one-way street. For people, the consequences can be equally catastrophic. A collision with an elephant can demolish a car and prove fatal for its occupants. At night, on a poorly lit road, a dark gray elephant is nearly invisible until it is too late. The sheer unpredictability of their presence turns routine travel into a gamble. Economically, the impact is crippling, especially for subsistence farmers. A single night's visit by a herd of elephants can wipe out an entire season's harvest, destroying a family's livelihood in a matter of hours. This devastation fuels a cycle of poverty and anger, eroding any local tolerance for conservation efforts. And then there is the ultimate cost: human life. While elephants are not inherently aggressive towards people, surprise encounters on roads or near villages can lead to defensive charges. An animal that feels cornered or is protecting its young can be incredibly dangerous. These tragic encounters deepen the divide, turning a conflict over resources into one of fear and animosity. Amidst the growing conflict, a wave of innovation and dedication is rising to meet the challenge. Across elephant range countries, governments, scientists, and local communities are pioneering strategies to make room for these gentle giants. One of the most effective, albeit expensive, solutions is structural engineering. Inspired by wildlife crossings in other parts of the world, dedicated elephant underpasses and overpasses are being constructed along major highways that intersect critical corridors. These structures provide safe passage, allowing elephants to follow their ancient routes without ever stepping foot on the road. In India's Rajaji National Park, a series of underpasses has successfully guided herds beneath a busy highway, dramatically reducing collisions and restoring a vital migratory link. Where large-scale construction isn't feasible, technology offers another line of defense. Early warning systems are being deployed in high-conflict zones. These range from sophisticated thermal cameras that detect an elephant's body heat and trigger warning lights for drivers to community-based watch groups. In many parts of India and Sri Lanka, local volunteers patrol corridors at night, using WhatsApp groups and SMS alerts to provide real-time updates to villagers and forest officials about elephant movements. On the ground, communities are adopting ingenious, low-cost deterrents to protect their crops and homes. Because elephants have sensitive trunks and dislike the chemical capsaicin, fences made of rope soaked in a mixture of chili and engine grease have proven surprisingly effective. An even more creative solution is the beehive fence. Elephants are terrified of African bees and will actively avoid the sound and threat of a buzzing hive. By stringing up a series of hives on a wire fence, farmers can create a natural biological barrier that not only protects their crops, but also provides a secondary income from honey. These practical solutions are often underpinned by deep-seated cultural beliefs. In many Hindu and Buddhist societies, the elephant is a sacred animal, a representation of the deity Ganesha. This reverence creates a foundation of tolerance, encouraging communities to seek peaceful solutions rather than retaliation. It is this blend of modern science, community action, and cultural respect that offers the most promising path forward. For the millions of people who live and work in elephant country, coexistence is not an abstract concept. It is a daily practice that requires caution, awareness, and a specific set of rules for staying safe. The most fundamental precaution is timing. Elephants are most active during the cooler hours of dawn and dusk, and deep into the night. Local wisdom and official advice in these areas is clear. Avoid traveling on roads that pass through forests or known corridors during these peak hours. For those who must travel, vigilance is key. Heeding the specially designed elephant warning signs, which indicate a known crossing zone, and significantly reducing speed, can provide the crucial seconds needed to react. Modern interventions are also making roads safer. Authorities are installing better lighting, reflective road markings, and clearing vegetation along roadsides to improve visibility. This simple act of daylighting the road's edge removes the element of surprise, giving both drivers and elephants more time to see and avoid each other. Perhaps the most important tool is education. Awareness programs run by wildlife departments and NGOs teach local communities and professional drivers how to behave during an encounter. The advice is consistent. If you see an elephant on or near the road, stop your vehicle at a safe distance. Turn off your headlights or dip them to avoid dazzling and confusing the animal. Never use the horn, and never ever try to drive through a herd, especially if there are calves present. Patience is the ultimate safety measure. In many regions, dedicated hotlines and rapid response teams have been established. If elephants are seen near a road or village, a single phone call can dispatch a team of trained wildlife officials. Their job is not to harm the animals, but to safely guide them away from human areas and back towards the forest, using noise, spotlights, and their deep understanding of elephant behavior. These measures transform local residents from victims of conflict into active partners in its management. The story of elephants crossing roads is ultimately a story about space. It is a powerful reminder that our planet is a shared home, and our actions have profound consequences for the other species that live here. The solution cannot be to build higher walls or more fences. The only sustainable path forward is one of genuine, planned coexistence. This requires a fundamental shift in how we plan our own growth. Future development projects, be they highways, railways, or new townships, must incorporate the needs of wildlife from the very first blueprint. By identifying and legally protecting elephant corridors before construction begins, and by making wildlife crossings a standard, non-negotiable part of infrastructure design, we can prevent these conflicts from arising in the first place. Success stories, though scattered, light the way forward. Communities that have embraced beehive fences are seeing their incomes rise and their crops protected. The corridors where underpasses have been built are now silent, safe passages once again. Where local people are empowered as the first line of defense and conservation, fear is slowly being replaced by a sense of stewardship. The future of the wild elephant now depends on us. It depends on our willingness to see the world through their eyes, to recognize a highway not as a symbol of progress, but as a barrier across a vital, ancient path. It rests on our ability to look beyond the immediate conflict and embrace our shared ecological responsibility. If we can learn to make space for these magnificent travelers, to respect their journey as we forge our own, we may yet secure a future where both humans and elephants can walk their chosen paths in peace.